Let's stick with that melody. Let's try and bring all of our voices together.
Before I even say Shabbat Shalom, before Shabbat lights, this is a special Shabbat. Yesterday, Yom HaShoah, so this is our really Shabbat Shoah, our Holocaust remembrance. If you have this sheet, now is the time to take it out. I would be privileged to call in bearing witness the generations of survivor families who are here present tonight in our congregation. Come on up as we kindle these yellow candles, these yahrzeit lights. Please join us on the bima. People are just going to light a candle, right? If you're representing one family, right? Don't light 12 candles. Just light one. You know we love you. All right? Kelly, you first. Go ahead.
We kindle the light in memory of the helpless infants, children who were cut down like young trees before their time.
Yizkor, you are not forgotten.
We kindle this light in memory of all the mothers who died with their children in their arms. Yizkor, you are not forgotten.
Marlene's right here. Get the third one.
We kindle this light in memory of all the teachers, the rabbis, scholars, and thinkers, those who were the first to be taken.
Yizkor, you are not forgotten.
We kindle this light in memory of the martyrs whose lives were given so that others might live.
Yizkor, you are not forgotten. Gloria, and then the bagel ones.
We kindle this light in memory of the resistors who dedicated their lives to fighting the inhumanity and the terror.
Yizkor, you are not forgotten.
We kindle this light in memory of all who never lost hope, who refused to despair though darkness surrounded them.
Restore, you are not forgotten.
From the same light that comes destruction, rage, a fire that destroys, so comes the light of love, the warmth we share in being together, that we create this Shabbat as a congregation. It's all about how you use the light. Our B'nai Mitzvah families, come on up as we kindle the lights of Shabbat. We're on page 120 in your prayer books. If you reach under your seats, books magically pop out. Mishkan Tefillah, a Reformed Siddur. All right, come on here. Come on. You guys are all together. Come on, all over here. Here we go. All right, so, right, you guys, anybody who wants to together can read this as, right?
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who has kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light.
All right, so B'nai Mitzvah, help your moms light these candles. Go ahead. Go over there. So you're going to light one. You may need some help. the page as we rise for Kiddush. That's for you. Judah, that's for you. Right here, buddy.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu b'shabbat kodsho be'ahava u'b'ratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh bereshit ki hu yom techila lemnikrae kodesh zecher letzion mitzrayim ki vanu v'acharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim ve'shabbat kodecha be'ahava u'b'ratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. Amen. L'chaim.
Have a sip. Have a sip. I think it's apple juice. I think. It's not wine. Is it wine? Nah, it's apple juice.
Great job.
On page 138, we welcome the Sabbath bride, L'chadodi.
Yalalalai l'chadodi, yalalalai likrat kala, yalalalai penei Shabbat, penei Shabbat nekabel, yalalalai l'chadodi, yalalalai likrat kala, yalalalai penei Shabbat. Penei Shabbat nekabela Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad Hishmianu el ha'miyuchad Adonai echad U'shemo echad L'shemo tiferet V'litila Yalalai Yalalai l'chadodi Yalalai likrat kala Yalalai penei Shabbat Penei Shabbat nekabela Likrat Shabbat Lechu v'nelcha Ki mekor haberacha Merosh mikedem Nesucha Sof Maaseh B'machshava techila Yalalai Yalalai l'chadodi Yalalai likrat kala Yalalai penei Shabbat Penei Shabbat nekabela Hitoreri Adonai, alayich nigla. Yai-lai-lai, yala-la-la-lai, lecha dodi. Yala-la-la-lai, likrat kala. Yala-la-la-lai, P'nei Shabbat. P'nei Shabbat nekabela. Boi v'shalom, ateret bala. Gam v'simcha, u'tzola. Toch emunei, am segula. Boi chala, boi chala. Ya-la-la-lai, ya-la-la-la-lai, lecha dodi. Ya-la-la-la-lai, likrat kala. Ya-la-la-la-lai, P'nei Shabbat. P'nei Shabbat nekabe. Ya-la-la-la-lai, lecha dodi. Ya-la-la-la-lai, likrat kala. Ya-la-la-la-lai, P'nei Shabbat. P'nei Shabbat nekabela.
We take a moment to say Shabbat Shalom, a little schmoozing.
We rise. Page 146. Making ready for Shema, we join together the bottom of 151. Wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol. All these things your Torah gives to us. And the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives. What could be a truer token of your abiding love than this holiest of your works and the living language that gives it form? Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem, Kevod Malchuto, Leolam
Bechol levavcha ubechol nafshecha ubechol meodecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ela asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta ba'am v'shivtecha b'beitecha v'vlechtecha b'derech v'shochbecha v'kumecha v'kshartam le'od al yadecha v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha v'tavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisha'arecha leman tizkeru va'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'yitem kedoshim le'Elohechem Ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem le'Elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem. Passover has passed us, but the memory, the story, the moment of Exodus is with us each and every day, each and every time we sing these words on page 158, as our ancestors did with their first steps of freedom by the shores of the sea. Page 161, Let There Be Love. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let
Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu, Hashkivenu, Leshalom, let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms.
We turn to 164, rising together for these opening words of our tefillah.
Adonai, Sefatai Tiftach, Ufi Yagid, Tehilatecha, Adonai, Sefatai Tiftach, Ufi Yagid, Tehilatecha.
An image to take us into our silent prayer. Yesterday, together with Jane and Karen and many others, I had the honor of participating in our and that Jane, so many Janes. I had the honor of participating in our county-wide Yom HaShoah commemoration organized by the Westchester Jewish Council and the Human Rights Commission. Perhaps you've been there before, where Jews of all denominations, elected officials, and passers-by on the street gather for a lunch hour in the Garden of Remembrance right in the middle of downtown White Plains to stop, to remember the horrors of the Holocaust, to hear the heart-wrenching story of a survivor, to kindle candles, to say Kaddish. At a time when anti-Semitism, when Holocaust denial are at an all-time high, the words we heard, the words we spoke yesterday were ever chilling. But the most powerful part of the ceremony each year is the procession and presence of dozens of rescued Holocaust scrolls, 2 of which are in our own ark right now. And yesterday, if you can imagine, 37 rescued Torah scrolls, which each miraculously made their way out of the ashes of the Shoah and into arks around Westchester, were processed through the community. Each one you can imagine, which has been chanted from now by hundreds, if not thousands, of Jewish young people, young at heart. It was impossible in that moment to lose hope, to give in to the darkness. It was, as one might say, an ani ma'amin moment, a reminder, an affirmation of faith in goodness and in God. So as we take a few moments of our own quiet prayer, I invite you to consider, ani ma'amin, what is it in this crazy, sometimes callous world that you still believe in, that you hold onto with full faith? Just as we remember such brokenness years ago, we acknowledge brokenness all around us, even in this moment, those who are feeling fractured or fragile in need of healing. We join together, rising if you're able, as one community, offering them this Mishaberach, a prayer of healing, the middle of page 371.
Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen.
This Shabbat, our temple family in particular prays for the healing of Jerry Gallner, Pat Ryan, Marlo Wiggins, Stanley Tereski, Paul Wiggins, Enid Elton, Andy Rosenthal, Joseph Spinelli, Jody Kahn, Samuel Phillip, Ariel Eden, Ian Spear, Kristen Harris, Millie Marmer, Jack Blumenfrucht, Kira Rutman, Frank Fozzolari, Jackie Pearsall, Joel Brill, Steve Gutman, Brad Dembski, Elise Silverman, Dave Richards, Christy Riggs, Lauren Riggs, Lynn Finch, Jennifer Halpern, John Campbell, Natalie Ritter, Wendy Brooks, Gary Govey, Arnold Becker, Missy Garrity, Matt Scarpa, Pearl Becht, Rabbi David Wilfond, Heather Smith, Maggie Kraus, Berta Zuckerman Blaiston, Adam Schoenfarger, Jody Gottsfeld, Marsha Warner, and Michael Cooperman. If you're thinking of someone else in need of healing and feel comfortable, I invite you to name their names out loud so we can join you in their prayers for healing.
Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
You may be seated. Just kidding. We're just giving you a little extra. We're changing things up tonight. Even the rabbis don't remember. One rabbi remembered.
Yeah, you're right.
But anyway, so we're going to do Aleinu so that we can share and hear this bearing witness, an amazing story that's going to be shared with us, and then go into Kaddish at the end of the service. So we're going to rise for Aleinu on 586.
And
Evan
Evan
and
and
Jordan.
Jordan, come on up.
And we need our on decks to open the ark.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, la'tekedu la'lioter reshit, shelo atzanu kegoyei haratzot, velo samanu kemishpachot עמו אחד.
In 2011, when his mother, Gita, passed away, I heard the family tale of survival, not about one parent, but two, and how they met, married, and knowing the legacy they implanted within generations of a thriving Jewish family, most all of whom belong here to Larchmont Temple. I said, Simone, you have to tell this story. This is a story to be told. And he said, yeah, maybe someday. I think it's 13 and a half or 14 years later, he is ready. With an inspiring tale of transcending the horror of the Holocaust, a tale of spiritual triumph in the most inspired ways, we are so grateful to welcome our wonderful member, Simone Begelman, to bear witness to his legacy.
Rabbi Serkman, thank you for your many years of nudging me. And Jill Sharkisy, thank you for providing an environment that encouraged my writing this and for your guidance. I'm a child of Holocaust survivors. My parents, Henry Begelman, born 1911, and Gita Glazer, born 1919, were from Lodz, Poland. Their lives before the war were comfortable, typical of middle-class Jewish families of Lodz. We lived in Queens since I was 3. My family was not religious, but our Jewish identity was obvious, traditionally, culturally, and certainly by our last name. My sister Riva and I went to public school, Hebrew school, and were B'nai Mitzvah. We observed the high holidays. My mother often lit Shabbos candles, and Friday family dinners together were customary. My parents' friends, the community of people that we grew up with in Queens, and summers at small Catskill hotels and bungalow colonies were all Holocaust survivors from Poland as well. Sela, Hala, Bronka, Gagush, Yumek, Mietek. These were the adults in my young world, and my parents were Henyek and Gitka to their friends. Their group of survivor friends were a replacement extended family, a tight, life-affirming group there for each other and each other's children. The only real family that we grew up around was my mother's brother, Uncle Leo, and his wife, Aunt Rose, my Tante Roja. Their children are cousins Jack and Carol, and occasionally my dad's nephew, Shlomik. When my sister and I were in high school, we became resentful of the Friday family dinner obligation. Before cell phones, once our friends went out for the evening, it was difficult to meet up with them. In college, when I met Bambi, now my wife for 42 years, the first time she called my house to coordinate a ride back to Binghamton, my mother answered the phone. When I got on, Bambi commented, "Your mother has such a strong accent." "What accent?" I said. "I don't hear any accent." The adults in my life all spoke that way. I was oblivious to it. When Bambi was introduced to a couple of my parents' survivor friends, they said, "Hi, we're Helen and Jerry." I did a double take, not realizing that Hala and Gagush had other names. In 1939, the population of Lodz was around 750,000 people. 1/3 were Jewish, the second largest Jewish community in pre-war Poland. On September 1, 1939, the German army invaded Poland, beginning World War II. By September 8th, the Nazis occupied Lodz, renaming the city Litzmannstadt. Within months, the second largest ghetto in German-occupied Europe was established. Approximately 25% of the Jews fled Lodz between the invasion and May 1940, when the ghetto was sealed. 160,000 Jews were forced into the Lodz ghetto, including both my parents. From January 1940 on, Jews were forbidden to travel by train, the only available means of public transportation. Orders were issued prohibiting commercial exchange between Jews and non-Jews, and regulations were issued blocking bank accounts of Jews, severely limiting how much money they could possess. There were deportations into the Lodz ghetto of Jews from Eastern Europe in 1941 and 42, increasing the population to over 200,000. During the first half of 1942, 70,000 Jews were deported out of the ghetto to Chelmno, the first killing center established by the Nazis, which was only 30 miles from Lodz. It was primarily people unable to work or be productive for the Nazis, the elderly, the sick, and children. The ghetto population was forced labor for the Nazis. It was a major industrial center for Germany, manufacturing war supplies, clothing, and other material in workshops. The Lodz ghetto was more isolated than other ghettos. The Jews were dependent on the Nazis for food, medicine, and supplies. Smuggling and armed uprisings, like in other ghettos, was nearly impossible. A form of uprising that occurred in Lodz was an attempt to maintain Jewish tradition, cultural life, and schools, countering Nazi attempts to dehumanize the ghetto population. Both my parents' families actively contributed to these efforts. Within time, this became more difficult, and the focus turned to avoiding starvation. Around 44,000 people died from starvation and disease in the ghetto. By spring of 1944, the Lodz ghetto was the last remaining ghetto in German-occupied Poland, with a population of only 70,000. Of the 225,000 Jews in Lodz before the war, less than 5% survived after liberation. My mom. I went to sleepaway camp for the first time at age 12. My sister was returning as a counselor in training, so my parents were comfortable sending me. At breakfast one morning, a waiter carrying a pitcher of hot water was bumped as he walked behind me, the hot water spilling on my back. He was the schlemiel, and I was the schlemazel. I was taken to the infirmary with second-degree burns, which were treated, but the camp felt an obligation to tell my mother, who was in Kaimisha during the summer. The camp was in Livingston Manor, over a half hour away. It was during the week when my father was in the city. Mom wanted to come see me, but didn't drive. I told her she shouldn't come. I was fine. I was 12. Who wants their mother to come running? Later that day, my mother shows up at the camp. She got a ride to Monticello bus depot, took a bus to Livingston Manor, and a taxi to the camp. I brought you some grapes, she said. When she thought someone needed something, she was a person of action. That was my mom. Although she may have been the baby of her family before the war, my mother was the backbone of our family. In 1967, when her brother, Leo, got cancer, my mother schlepped from Queens to Mount Sinai Hospital to be with him almost every day. In the late 80s, my Tante Risha got cancer with frequent hospitalizations. Most of the time, my mother was with her at the hospital. With all this, we didn't feel neglected. Like the Energizer Bunny, my mom kept going, getting things done, and giving each of us the attention we needed. Gita's family was from Tarlov, a small town near Ostrowiec, Poland, before moving to Lodz around 1900 because the city had more opportunities. Gita, who was born in Lodz, was the youngest of 7 children born to Mordechai and Tova Glazer. Lodz was an industrial city, and the family had a textile embroidery business that was started by Gita's mother and brother Samuel. Tova died in 1934 when Gita was only 15. Mordechai was an Orthodox Jew and teacher, but very progressive for his time. Before the war, Gita's oldest sister, Rachel, was a science student who had taken her studies in Lodz as far as she could. Mordechai gave his blessings for Rachel to go to Czechoslovakia to continue her studies. It was unusual for an Orthodox father to allow his daughter to leave home, except to get married. As a child, Gita went to a Zionist school and had a Yiddish tutor at home. She went to camp during the summer, skated after school in the winter, and ski trips to the Zakopane Mountains. She used to tell my children, "My life before the war was very much like yours, and then it wasn't," referring to the Nazi invasion of Poland. When the Nazis invaded, most of Gita's family relocated to Warsaw, thinking it would be better. Gita and her brother Leo remained in Lodz, and the ghetto was sealed by spring 1940. Gita's family was separated with no contact until after liberation. Leo, experienced in manufacturing, was head of the clothing department, running 8 workshops in the Lodz ghetto. In an effort to keep children safe, he appealed to Chaim Rumkowski, the chairman of the Ghetto Jewish Council, of the need for children to work in the factory because their small fingers and fine motor skills were necessary for detail work, he said. Leo secretly appointed teachers as supervisors in the areas the children worked, and though schooling was prohibited, classes were held, including the children staging shows with music composed and played by David Begelman, my dad's brother. Gita worked in her brother's factory. She, Leo, and Rose, who would later marry Leo, managed to remain in the Lodz ghetto from the beginning until the ghetto was liquidated in fall of 1944. Being in the ghetto from the start helped them to survive, Gita said. People deported into the ghetto from other parts of Eastern Europe died quicker than the Lodz Jews because they didn't have the time or the ability to adapt to the conditions. When the ghetto was liquidated in summer 1944, after most cattle car transports left for Auschwitz, Gita, Leo, Rose, and a group of others were kept behind. Hans Beboff, the chief Nazi administrator in Lodz, kept the group back to finish packing up material from the factories. Beboff wasn't in a hurry to leave Lodz, Gita told us. He had an easy life, and he needed a reason to stay, because once he was done in Lodz, he was probably going to the front lines of the battle. Gita and Rose were put on a transport leaving Lodz, September 1944, going to Ravensbrück, the largest women's concentration camp in Germany. From there, they were sent to Wittenberg to a forced labor camp at the Arado airplane factory, where they were until April 1945. I would joke with my mother that if she helped build the planes, how could they possibly fly? The Allied forces began bombing the Arado factory in mid-April 1945, killing over 1,000 workers, including many of the more than 1,000 prisoners. Gita and Rose hid in small shelters. Rose got shrapnel in her leg, and Gita did her best to keep it from getting infected. They lost track of time, waiting for the bombing to stop. Was it days, weeks? At some point, they heard men's voices outside the shelter speaking Russian, saying it was safe to come out. They were liberated on April 27, 1945, by Russian troops and brought to a field hospital. The doctor wanted to amputate Rose's leg, but Gita begged, convincing the doctor to treat the wound instead of amputating. Once Rose was stable, Gita felt she had to go to Lodz to see if any of her family had survived. She made her way to Lodz and, by word of mouth, found where her family was living and knocked on the door. Her brother, Sevik, opened the door, but didn't know who she was. "Oi, Sevik, don't you recognize me?" Gita said. Imagine how it must have felt to be reunited after 5 years. Gita heard their stories of survival in Warsaw. Her family was smuggled out of the Warsaw Ghetto on April 18, 1943, the eve of the uprising, by Jerzek Kozminski, a Polish teenager, and hidden by his stepmother, Renia Kozminski, who were helping Zagota, a Polish underground rescue organization. Renia hid the Glazers and others, about 15 people, for more than a year in an underground shaft they dug at her house on the outskirts of Warsaw. One of those in hiding was a watchmaker who taught the others to repair watches. Renia kept the group fed by bringing home broken watches from a local shop to her sick uncle, who she said was unable to leave the house but was a good repairman. Renia, who had a baby, went to the market with a false-bottom stroller to bring enough food for those in hiding. In the summer of 1944, as the Russians advanced, the Kozminskis' neighborhood became a war zone, and the Germans ordered it evacuated. Renia's husband and father left. Renia took her 2-year-old child with her into hiding because, as she told her hideaways, "If I leave you, you are lost." She was able to sneak out and get enough food to keep the group from starving. Warsaw was liberated by Russian troops on January 17, 1945. The Glazers had another surprising reunion in Lodz when Jerzek Kozminski came to find out what happened to them. They learned that Jerzek had been caught by the Nazis, beaten and interrogated, but did not give up any information. He was sent to Mauthausen concentration camp. He survived, and being the Gita Neshama, the good soul that he was, it wasn't long before he would be instrumental in helping the Glazers. The pogroms in Poland began again, proof for many survivors that no hope remained for rebuilding Jewish life in Poland. Jewish emigration from Poland surged because of the pogroms. Gita, with Jerzek's help, left Poland for Munich, Germany, where she reunited with her brother Leo and Rose. Gita's father, Mordechai, said if he survived, he would go only to Israel, which is what he did, with Gita's sister Paula and Gita's brother Samuel and his wife Minna. Gita's brother Sevek went to Argentina with his wife Fania, where she had family. My dad. Growing up, my sister and I knew our father, Henry, was a musician, although it was not his occupation. He played violin and tenor saxophone. We learned later on that his family was part of a musical dynasty in Eastern Europe comprised of 3 families, Spielmann, Begelman, and Barscht. The movie The Pianist focuses on the pianist Władysław Spielmann's survival of the Warsaw Ghetto. Henry's family was related to and performed with his family. Henry loved music. When he heard a classical or jazz piece playing, he could tell you the tempo, hum or whistle it, and if his violin was nearby, play along. When I was a kid, during summers at the Regal Hotel in South Fallsburg, New York, Henry, like many dads, worked in the city during the week and came up on weekends. He played with the house band to offset our costs. At my cousin's wedding, he got on stage and played with the band. It was clear how happy this made him. Henry's family moved from Ostrovets to Lodz around 1911 when he was born. His family were well-known classical and contemporary musicians performing in Eastern Europe and beyond. He had 7 siblings, all involved in music and theater. Lodz had an active cultural, cabaret, and Yiddish theater scene. His father, Shimon, who I am named after, was the first oboe and a conductor for the Lodz Symphony Orchestra. His oldest brother, David, a violinist, orchestra leader, and composer of Yiddish theater music, was the director of the Lodz Yiddish Theater and a composer-director of the Lodz Ararat Theater. All 5 Begelman sons were professional musicians. His 3 sisters were as well, but it was less common for women to play professionally. When Henry, the second youngest, was 6, his brother-in-law taught him to play the violin. He joined the conservatory and at 15 began playing the violin and saxophone professionally, playing in the orchestra of the Ararat Theater and in nightclubs. Henry's father and one brother, Abram, died just before the war in 1937 and 1938. The rest of his family, including his mother, Rivka, who my sister is named after, stayed together when they were forced to move into the Lodz ghetto. Henry's oldest brother, David, was very active in the cultural life of the ghetto, striving to provide diversion from the conditions. He was the conductor in the House of Culture and the Ghetto Theater, composed new music and lyrics, and adapted pre-war music for theatrical groups and workshops. Henry played in the Lodz Ghetto Orchestra under his brother's direction. Henry also worked in a hat manufacturing workshop. All ghetto inhabitants were required to work to earn ration cards to eat. Being productive for the German army gave you a chance to stay alive if you didn't die of disease or starvation. In September 1942, there was a Nazi order that all young children, sick, and elderly were to be deported to Chelmno. Henry's mother, Rivka, who was 67, should have been deported. However, Rivka was on a list of people exempt from deportation, which was unusual and required influence. Perhaps David, whose work in the ghetto was so appreciated, contributed to their mother's exemption. Or maybe it was through the Glazer family's influence. My parents' families knew each other before the ghetto. Henry was close friends with Gita's brother Sevek, and Henry's younger brother Hilek was a close friend of Gita, whose brother Leo directed the 8 workshops in the ghetto, keeping people productive. In June 1944, when the Nazis ordered the destruction of the Lodz ghetto, David hid the family musical instruments, including a valuable violin, in the attic of the hat factory where Henry worked. When the ghetto was liquidated in August 1944, Henry's family was sent to Auschwitz. On arrival, the selection process separated the prisoners into groups able and unable to work. Henry was separated from his family, but he, his nephew Shlomek, and a few friends managed to stay together. They were taken to a work camp at Altamer, a subcamp of Auschwitz, with 500 prisoners, building highways for 14 hours a day, 6 days a week. His rations were a small piece of bread and watery soup each day. From Altamer, they were sent to Flossenburg in November 1944. With the Allied forces getting close in April 1945, SS Nazi leader Heinrich Himmler ordered all the concentration camps evacuated. On April 20th, 1945, Henry was taken on what came to be known as a death march from Flossenbürg to Dachau, an attempt by the Nazis to stay ahead of the liberating troops while killing as many Jews as possible. They marched during the night to avoid being seen by Allied planes, hiding in the cold forests during the day. On the second day, Henry told his nephew and friends he couldn't walk any further. His feet and legs were frozen, and they should leave him. They refused, carrying him, his arms draped on their shoulders. Once he got moving and his legs thawed out, they couldn't keep up with him. More than 12,000 prisoners left Flossenbürg for Dachau on April 20th. The American troops caught up only 3 days later, liberating them at 10:30 in the morning of April 23rd on the road near Cham, Germany, only 3,000 remaining alive. Henry and 4 others found a farm, the farmer providing food and shelter. After a few weeks, they went to the American-controlled city of Cham and were provided with living accommodations. Henry met other musicians from Lodz. An American army captain and the Cham burgermeister helped Henry organize an orchestra and get musical instruments from Czechoslovakia. Henry had suits tailor-made for performing. He contacted the UN Relief and Rehabilitation Administration, UNRWA, which administered the displaced persons camps. UNRWA provided an ambulance which was converted to a tour bus. They performed for American troops, at DP camps, and at concert halls in German cities, playing a mixture of American jazz, Polish music, Yiddish songs, original songs, and classics. One of the Yiddish songs they performed, written by Henry after liberation, was called "We Long for a Home," Es behnt sich noch a Heim. The band named themselves the Happy Boys, an odd choice of name, it seems. But in their mission to help themselves and other survivors heal and give hope of a new life, the name was appropriate. The inspiration for the name was also a tribute to the Jolly Boys, a band that Henry's brother Abram was a member of before the war, before he died. Henry went into Auschwitz with 21 members of his extended family. Only he and 2 nephews survived. After the war, Henry was performing and touring with the Happy Boys. He was also going to Munich to see the Glazers, and he was dating Gita. Leo, Gita's brother, was establishing a textile business in Munich. Henry and Gita married in Munich in 1947, and Leo and Rose married as well. In 1949, Rose, who was pregnant, refused to give birth on German soil, prompting the 2 couples to leave Germany. They got papers to emigrate to the US. Rose and Leo traveled by plane since Rose was pregnant, while Henry and Gita traveled by ship to Boston. They arrived in August, and despite the heat, Henry wouldn't take off his woolen coat because he had a few $100s sewn into his sleeve. Gita had second cousins in New York, Nathan Glazer, whose family left Poland before the war, and his wife Ruth. Nathan's father was Gita's uncle. Ruth met Gita and Henry's boat in Boston and brought them back to New York. Otherwise, I might have grown up in St. Paul, Minnesota. She helped them acclimate to their new country. Whenever Ruth caught them reading Yiddish newspapers, she scolded them, insisting they spend the time learning English instead. Gita found work before Henry did. Once my sister Riva was born in 1952, Gita stayed home. I was born April 23rd, 1955, as Henry used to tell us repeatedly on my birthday, exactly 10 years to the day and hour after his liberation. He called it his second birthday. For Gita, raising her children, creating a home, dedicating herself to her family was her priority. She took us to Israel to see her father when my sister was 6 and I was 3. Gita would take us skating, to shows, made birthday celebrations, to Jewish holidays, and was involved with our schools. Henry started working selling fruit from a cart and as a musician when he had the opportunity. Then he worked for an import-export company started by 2 survivors he knew from Lodz. In 1955, 7 survivor families, including Henry and Leo, bought a residential building near Midtown Manhattan, their introduction to real estate. In 1962, Henry and other survivors bought a residential building near Madison Square Park, which he managed until it was sold in 1969. In 1972, Henry joined a survivor friend who was buying a residential building on the Upper West Side, which Henry managed until he passed away. Although Henry did not earn his living as a musician, it remained a large part of his life. He was a member of the Musicians Union Local 802, paying his dues and carrying his union card proudly. As he got older, he made sure we knew he had a death benefit from the union, maybe $1,000, not bad after 40 years of dues. Henry was a kibitzer. That was the entertainer in him, always talking to and joking with people. He had a good memory. Wherever he went, he would recognize people he hadn't seen in decades. He had a talent for making everyone feel special. Henry's sense of humor and luck helped him survive the Holocaust. He often made jokes. So when my family has to tolerate my humor, they know it's genetic. Leo passed away 6 months before my bar mitzvah, when he was only 62. It was difficult for our family. Gita's brother, whom she survived the war with, her only brother who she came to the U.S. with, and the first loss to impact our family. With my parents' desire to respect 1 year of mourning, my bar mitzvah was changed to a lunch at the temple with no music. 4 days before my bar mitzvah, Shlomek, Henry's nephew, whom he survived the war with, was senselessly killed in a store robbery in the Bronx. Our rabbi said my bar mitzvah must still go forward, which it did, with a small celebration in our apartment before returning to sit Shiva after Shabbat. Our daughter, Selena Ray, is named after Shlomek. Our son, Aaron Lyle, has Leo's Hebrew name. Rose passed away in 1992. Our daughter, Abby Rose, carries her name. Henry and Gita stepped in and were like parents to Leo and Rose's children, Carol and Jack, and like grandparents to their children. Jack's kids, Lola and Leo, went to sleepaway camp in the Catskills, not far from Henry and Gita's bungalow. Jack would pick my parents up to join them on visiting day when the camp put out a glorious lunch. On his first visit, Henry went over to the camp director and said, "Oi, this is such a wonderful lunch. Where I went to camp, we didn't have anything like this." "Oh, where did you go to camp?" the director asked. Henry replied, "Auschwitz." The instruments that Henry's brother David hid in the ghetto were recovered by Henry's brother-in-law, Abram, who survived the war in the Soviet Union. Abram, whose wife and daughter died in the Lodz ghetto, went to San Jose, Costa Rica after liberation, where he had cousins. He earned the honor of being the first violinist of the National Orchestra of Costa Rica for many years. When Abram passed away, the treasured violin came to Henry. That violin and other original material was donated by Riva and me to the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum in D.C. after our dad passed away. Gita's family in Israel invited Renya Kozminski to come in 1964. She decided to stay, converted to Judaism, and remarried. Jezek, who rescued my mother's family, stayed in Poland. I grew up with my parents sending packages to Jezek's family every Christmas. Jezek and Renya Kozminski were honored as righteous among the nations by Yad Vashem in 1965. My dad never went back to Poland. "It's a graveyard. I have nothing to go back for," he told us. Dad passed away in 2002 at age 91. In September 2004, Lodz invited survivors to a commemoration for the 60th anniversary of the liquidation of the Lodz ghetto. Gita said to me and my sister, "If you come with me, I would go." She told her friends, "My children are making me go." Her first time back to Lodz in 59 years was an emotional trip. My son Aaron came with us, but Bambi and my daughters did not. Selena was just starting college, and we felt Abby was too young. Jezek Kozminski and our cousins met us as well. Aside from the planned events, we visited Gita's mother's grave, my dad's father Shimon's grave, and we found where our families had lived, and we toured Auschwitz. When Bambi and I visited Yad Vashem in 2005, an exhibit with large panels of children's artwork and a fairy tale about a prince caught Bambi's eye. As Bambi read the information posted, she saw my Uncle Leo Glazer's name and realized a small photo of his face was pasted on the artwork as the head of the prince. The material, which was recovered from the Lodge ghetto, referred to Uncle Leo as the Prince of the Ghetto. It was a surprise to stumble on this exhibit and confirmation of stories we had heard. My mom passed away in 2011 at 91. What about Henry and Gita's grandparents? Oy, don't get me started. I'll just say they were good role models, caring, loving, generous, and helpful. Now I have the luxury of being a grandparent. With 5 beautiful grandchildren living nearby, carrying the names of prior generations forward: Eli, Charlie, and Leo Wagowski, and Henry and Tessa Bagelman. How lucky am I to see little cousins Henry and Leo, only 4 months apart, schmooze together like zwei alte Juden, 2 old Jews. And the Friday family dinner obligation of my youth that I resented? With age comes wisdom. Looking back, the message was simply about the value of family. Thank you.
So, the only thing to say is, this is one story of one family. Multiply that by all the stories represented here, by the generation of survivors and your stories, but realize what the great gift is. Professor Wiesel taught us, listening to a witness makes you a witness. You now have to bear witness. You have to tell this man's story. You have to remember just bits of it and pass it on. And you have to understand, by the way, do the math, he just turned 70. All right? By the way, looks damn good for 70.
And it's exactly 80 years since my father was liberated.
So realize what the gift of, right? So how do we speak to a final solution? We have the ultimate resolution. Stand up if you're part of the Bagelman family. Stand up, stand up, stand up, stand up.
And
That's
Glazer.
it. And Glazer, and Glazer, and Glazer, and Glazer, right? So that is the gift of turning 70. We could not be more grateful to you. And just to know, it only took you 14 years. But your bearing witness is the ultimate honor and the ultimate testament of the love that's been planted inside you. So we are just so grateful, Henry.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now, as it makes sense, we rise. Kaddish is on page 598. The Yad Vashem that Simone was talking about, as you leave the children's memorial, there is a sign above it. It's attributed to the Baal Shem Tov. It says, forgetfulness leads to exile, while remembrance is the secret of redemption. Remembering every single soul who was taken, 6 million Jews, over 1 million children. We may not be able to recount their names, but their legacies still live, so long as we remember. We link those names to those in our own congregational family whose yortzites are observed this Shabbat: Elizabeth Sharkisy, Max Myers, Elaine Margolin, Judith Thal, Howard Trachtenbreut, Joe Ellen Kipnis, Robert Scherer, John Mass, Neil Hellman, Robert Frankel, my friend Bob Frankel, Irving First, Marion Weinstein, Arthur Feiner, Judith Godin, Gertrude Cantor, Arnold Goody, Rose Gittleman, Virginia Reinheimer Block, Molly Jennis, Aaron Held, Sidney Perlman, Barbara Weiss, David Geffner, Dr. Jeffrey Escher, Vivian Zoffness, Milton Rones, Donald Tolchin, Michael Gertzman, Gustavo Weissman, Milton Garin, Turin Garin, Frank Bavona, Zelma Tillman, Paulette Blaufox, Paul Marks, Melvin Vinick, Harold Schwartz, Simon Kalos, Richard Friedland, Nicholas Ferenz, Rachel E. Blagan, May Ashner, Beatrice Robbins, David Hyman, Tilly Falkoff, Betty F. Handler, Harry Gipps, Zelma Tillman, past president of the congregation Sheldon S. Turk, Marsha Pollock, Eva Labe, George Prusson, Julius Fine, Philip Bosworth, and Henry Gutag. Anyone here add a name in sacred remembrance? To those names we link the many who were recently in the past 30 days, Shloshim, have been laid to their eternal rest. Virginia O'Sullivan, friend of Adrian Weiss Harrison, Susan and Charles Gorovich, parents of Erica, along with Rick, Doria, along with Josh, grandfather of 6, Diane Dexter, friend of Katie Orangel, Elise Flatts, friend of Adrian, Wendy Weiner, and Amy Goldman, April Fairweather, stepson of Candy Stone, along with Marvin, father of Barbara, stepbrother of Jonathan and Edward, Jerry Miller, father of Carol, along with Rich Levy, Bennett, Daniel, and Wendy Fisher, grandfather of 8, great-grandfather of 3, Stuart Singer, cousin of Ron Molis, along with Kerry, Cy Dembski, husband of Hilda, father of Brad and Michelle, Jordan and Larry, grandfather of 5, Judy Seslow, wife of Ken, mother of Emily and Jonathan, grandmother of 5, great-grandma of 1, Leah Lewis, mother of Michelle, along with Jan Gould, Kathy and Michael, Barbara and Phil, grandmother of 5, great-grandma of 5 as well. Warren Hine, father of Beth Belial, along with Chris, Vanessa, along with Stephan, grandfather of Jack, Lindsay, and David, and Jonas. And just this week, Henry Human, dear friend of Diana and Dennis Hellman. The memories of all of them are with us, linked with 6 million souls whose memories and love will never be lost. We share in words of Kaddish. Yit gadal v'yit kadash shemei rabbah be'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon v'yomechon u'v'chayei d'chol be'Yisrael ba'agala u'vizman kari v'yimru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevorach le'olam u'lomei olmaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitalev v'yithalal shmei dekudsha barichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tush bechata v'nechamata da'amiran b'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Zichronam livracha, let their memories be our blessing. Amen.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you. I'm Yvette Gorovich, and I bring greetings on behalf of the Board of Trustees, deep, heartfelt appreciation to our clergy for a deeply touching service. The vision of the Rescue Torahs was breathtaking. Thank you. Thank you also to Simone for allowing us to hear and bear witness as you honored your parents, knowing the generations of your family. It was very, very moving. Thank you for sharing. There's great Torah teaching tomorrow by Rabbi Zerkman, Hevra Torah at 9 o'clock in Jacobson. Our alternative service on Shabbat, the informal morning minyan, will meet in the library at 10:30. There's also a family mitzvah course scheduled for tomorrow morning, weather permitting. And of course, the big news is the B'nai Mitzvah of Lila and Judah. I read your drashes online. They were amazing. I loved your questioning about kashrut, questions I still ask decades later. And Judah, your teaching about when to step up and step back was wise beyond your years. Thank you. We welcome you as the newest adult members of our sacred community. Mazel tov to your families, and mazel tov to you. Thank you. Sunday is busy at LT, Brotherhood Breakfast in the morning with Mark Oppenheimer, and Wine and Wisdom for a ladies' gathering at 5:30. Check the temple website for additional information. We continue to offer something for everyone. Please join us. Shabbat Shalom.
The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King taught us, wait a minute, let me remember it. Darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. Our greatest response to tyranny is never hate, it is love. We rise.
Olam chesed yibaneh, yalalai, lai, lai, yalalai, lai. 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 I will build this world from love. Yalalai, lai, lai, yalalai, lai. And you must build this world from love. Yalalai, lai, lai, yalalai, lai. And if we build this world from love, yalalai, lai, lai, yalalai, lai, then God will build this world from love. Yalalai, lai, lai, yalalai, lai. Olam chesed yibaneh, yalalai, lai, lai, yalalai, lai. Olam chesed yibaneh, yalalai, lai, lai, yalalai, lai.
Shabbat Shalom.